Welcome to the History on Screen channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. In Southeast Asian waters, sailors leave HMS Prince of Wales after a Japanese air attack in 1941. The British ship was badly damaged during World War II. The scene records the crew's evacuation, the impact of naval air power, and the loss of one of the Royal Navy's major ships in the Pacific. At NASA's Langley Research Center in Virginia, a reduced gravity walking simulator is used in 1965. The equipment helped train astronauts for space missions. The photograph records physical testing, support cables, and preparations for lunar exploration. Inside the Cook County Jail in Chicago, officials inspect a historic piece of penal equipment in 1927 used in capital sentences in the United States. The record shows the device's structure, the personnel present, and institutional procedures from the early 20th century. During a Pacific naval operation, deck crews assist a pilot after a forced landing on the aircraft carrier USS Enterprise in 1943 during World War II. The scene records emergency procedures, crew teamwork, and the constant risks of carrier-based air operations. Amid the damage of World War II, a Volkswagen Beetle appears among battered buildings in Berlin, Germany, in 1945. The city had been taken by Allied forces after intense attacks. The photo records the post-war urban state and the presence of civilian vehicles among damaged buildings. Used in the United States in 1863, a metal device tied to the system of slavery was made to prevent movement through small openings such as windows. The object restricted motion and worked as a control mechanism. The record documents slave laws in force and coercive practices during the Civil War period. Photographed by Robert Capa in France, the image shows French women publicly exposed in 1944, accused of collaborating with German forces during the occupation. The episode happened during liberation. The scene documents civilian reactions, public humiliation, and social tensions at the end of the war. After the Wall Street explosion, a damaged automobile sits in New York's financial district in 1920. The incident happened in front of the J.P. Morgan building and caused major shock in the city. The scene records material damage, the immediate response by authorities, and later changes in urban security measures. In the waters of the Mississippi River, a pearl diver works in 1938 using an improvised helmet made from a car gasoline tank. The work targeted freshwater mussels. The record shows homemade techniques, adapted gear, and the risks of river work in the southern United States. Distributed in the United Kingdom, the Morrison Home Shelter appears in 1941 as protection against air raids. It was provided to low-income families and set up indoors with a metal frame and reinforced top. The record shows civil defense policy, income criteria, and safety routines during the war. At a European military camp, United States soldiers prepare artillery shells decorated like Easter eggs in 1945 during World War II. The symbolic practice happened before operations against German forces. The scene shows humor among troops, personalized equipment, and everyday military life at the front. Separated by a fence in Mobile, Alabama, black children watch a playground reserved only for white children in 1956. Racial segregation was enforced by local laws in the southern United States. The image records exclusion in public spaces, childhood under inequality, and the social context before the civil rights movement. During labor protests in Indiana, people were paid to smash Japanese cars in 1980. Unions offered $1 per hit as a protest against foreign imports. The photo records economic tension, defense of local industry, and the impact of international competition on the auto sector. On the deck of the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, crew members prepare to abandon ship after severe damage in the Pacific in 1942 during World War II. The scene records evacuation protocols, crew organization, and the direct effects of naval operations. Along a New York sidewalk, a long line forms for food distribution during the Great Depression in 1932. The event became known as a bread line. The scene reveals mass unemployment, community aid, and day-to-day survival during the economic crisis in the United States. Set up for the German defendants, the court's dining table is shown arranged during the Nuremberg trials in Germany in 1946. The event brought leaders of the German regime to trial after World War II. The image shows space organization, custody rules, and everyday life inside the International Tribunal. Installed on city apartments, outdoor baby cages were used for fresh air exposure in European and North American cities in 1930. Attached to windows, they allowed daily ventilation. The practice reflected medical advice of the time and limited space in dense residential housing. In a Denver garage, a man climbs up to inspect a car lift after a bolt breaks in 1970. A vehicle remains tilted, close to falling. The photo documents mechanical failures in lifting systems and the risks involved in urban and industrial settings. During an urban rescue in 1942, people are pulled out through the windows of a damaged building using improvised support below. The episode took place during World War II amid air attacks on civilian areas. The photograph records rescue methods, collective cooperation, and the risks faced by people in cities under attack. Recorded in Gorky, Russia, the image shows Vladimir Lenin in 1923, shortly before his death. The Marxist leader already had serious health limitations after repeated neurological problems. The photograph documents his final days and the close of a decisive period of the Russian Revolution. In a bar in Belgium, men take a break to drink beer in 1971 using a very large glass typical of the country. The scene reflects social habits tied to Belgian beer culture. The photograph records the casual setting, traditional drinking, and European city life of the period. On Arctic ice, the balloon Ornen makes an emergency landing during the Swedish North Pole expedition in 1897. Led by Salomon André, the mission faced technical failures and severe conditions. The photograph documents the decisive moment that came before the expedition failed and contact with the team was lost. In rural fields of Scotland, residents of Humby look over the wreckage of a German Heinkel He-111 bomber in 1939. The aircraft crashed during the early actions of World War II. The photo shows civilians coming face to face with the effects of the air war in the British countryside. Among war-damaged buildings, a resident sits amid the ruins of Berlin, Germany in 1945. The city had been heavily hit during World War II. The scene shows urban destruction, abandoned equipment, and civilians remaining in place amid the post-war landscape. During the First World War winter, soldiers celebrate Christmas in the trenches in 1914 in parts of the European front. The episode became known for a temporary truce between enemy troops. The scene records brief coexistence, exchanges of symbolic gestures, and military life early in the conflict. In a cotton mill in the United States, a young girl works among industrial machines in 1908. Children were employed in textile mills because of low pay and long hours. The scene records child labor in factories and the debates that led to labor reforms in the early 20th century. As the Space Needle structure goes up, workers attach the external support fins in Seattle, United States in 1961. The project was part of preparations for the World's Fair. The scene shows high elevation work, metal parts, limited safety, tight schedules, and industrial methods of the era. Inside the ball turret of a World War II bomber, technicians serviced Browning defensive guns of .50 caliber during the 1940s. The cramped space housed the gunner in flight. The image shows tight conditions, technical work, and routine military aviation tasks. Lined up at a military delivery field, P-51 Mustang and P-47 Thunderbolt fighters appear ready for shipment in 1945. The aircraft were intended for the United States Air Forces near the end of World War II. These models played a central role in escort missions, ground attacks, and Allied air superiority. Shortly before the Second Battle of Fredericksburg, Union soldiers are seen dug in with trenches in Virginia, United States, in 1863. The clash was part of the American Civil War. The trenches were used for protection from artillery and enemy fire, showing changes in military tactics of the period. During construction of the Panama Canal locks, workers labor on massive concrete structures in 1912 in the Panama Isthmus zone. The system allowed ships to be raised and lowered between oceans. The scene shows heavy engineering, an international workforce, and the transformation of global maritime transport. In 1935, workers pose inside a 45-ton steel pipe section meant for the Hoover Dam on the Colorado River between Nevada and Arizona. The project increased power generation and flood control. The scene shows industrial scale, heavy materials, and the final phase of construction. After finishing the cleaning of the rifling inside a BL 15-inch artillery piece, a female worker is helped out from inside the equipment at the Coventry Ordnance Works factory in England in 1914. The scene takes place at the start of World War I and records weapons production, women's labor, and the scale of industrial armaments. During the final months of World War I, mechanics from the Women's Royal Air Force performed maintenance on an Avro 504 aircraft in 1918 in the United Kingdom. The plane was used for training. The scene records women's participation in military aviation, specialized technical tasks, and changes in labor during the conflict. On unstable ice, players compete in an ice hockey game in Sweden in 1959 before the event is stopped. The game was played outdoors, a common practice in the country. The record shows harsh weather, structural risks in the ice, and the sport in natural settings. Along a corridor at Attica Prison in New York, inmates play a chess game in 1972, moving pieces through the bars of their cells. The practice was part of daily prison life. The record shows inmate interaction, allowed recreational activity, and the organization of prison space in the United States. During the Harlem Peace March in New York, a protester carries an anti-war sign in 1967. The action brought participants together to call for an end to racial inequality and the intervention in Vietnam. The scene records civil protest, community mobilization, and social movements in the United States. In a car in the United States, a mother drives while a child sits in an improvised child seat, common in the 1950s. The devices were attached to the front seat and did not have modern seat belts. The scene records child transport practices and safety standards from before mandatory regulations. On a street in Waco, Texas, an 8-year-old boy works as a newspaper seller in 1913. Children were common in news delivery in American cities. The scene shows city commerce, child labor in the early 20th century, and the daily flow of printed press. Along the Yangtze River, workers are seen hauling boats through shallow water in China in 1946. The scene was recorded by photographer Dmitry Kessel. The method was common in hard-to-navigate stretches, revealing river transport, collective manual labor, and the river's economic importance after the war. In a portrait taken in Mongolia, Okir is identified as a shaman in 1909. The record relates to traditional shamanism practiced in Mongolian communities with healing rituals and mediation with spirits. The image documents clothing, accessories, and the shaman's social role in the early 20th century. On an open railroad, a steam train moves forward as a group pedals a 6-seat bicycle alongside the tracks in 1896. The scene took place in the United States as a sporting and promotional demonstration. The record shows speed experiments, group leisure, and early coexistence between rail transport and cycling. Sitting in front of a NASA space capsule, a young woman identified as Miss NASA poses beside a command module used in United States space program testing in the 1960s. The scene took place at a NASA facility. The record shows institutional promotion, space technology, and the context of the space race.